absolutely got my head kicked in, because they had coal for 150 years. Coal served this town, kept the lights on in the country, all this stuff, rah, rah, all that rhetoric. They weren't interested in anything I had to say.
A lot of the community just blacked it out and said, it's not going to happen. It's not going to affect us. It won't happen. It won't happen.
I told them, we're going to have more of these conversations. They're not going to stop. We're determined to make sure everyone understands what's going to happen. And we continued those conversations from 2007.
I just remember sitting in that room, looking around the room, and there was my husband and, you know, friends of ours and neighbours of ours who we were being told that, you know, this is the timeline for Collie and this is the timeline for the jobs in the coal-fired power station.
And at the start it was scary, like, oh, we're not going to have work, we're going to have to get on an aeroplane or go to the Pilbara or the goldfields.
When we first got the announcement, well, I'm a man of routine and habit, so it was a bit frightening.
They had to have those discussions that said, yeah, we're angry about this.
It's a very complex emotional space to navigate because there is a fair degree of grief. We are a very parochial, very proud town.
When they didn't trust us for the first 4 years or so, because they thought we were, you know, trying to undermine their future, at some stage they realised we're actually trying to help them with their future. And that was a turning point in the whole thing. We said, one, we want a committee of all the players, but two, we want to make sure that we had a basis of a committee from the town. So the town picked the leaders in their community to be part of it.
They've got unions, industry, government, all sorts of people on there. That's been a major part of a good, positive, just transition.
Our government's been incredibly open to suggestions. They see the community as being, I guess, the leaders in this process. State government's put in $662 million. That is just into the transition package and what that looks like for the community, attracting new industries, the Jobs and Skills Centre, some of those early tourism offerings.
If the government had come in and said we're putting this in here and that in there and that in there, we'd still be arguing whether or not that's good enough for the town. But because we preempted that discussion, right, had those discussions up front, they already knew what they wanted for the town. And when they told the government that's what they want, the government said okay, they were empowered.
I love your top, by the way. We will get the affected workers, we call them, who will come in and say, I work for one of the coal-fired power stations or one of the coal mines and I've heard about transition and I'd like to explore that. We see regularly over 2,000 people in a 12-month period. It's that honouring of the individual path that I find creates the most work, don't get me wrong, but is the real reason why we should be here.
It's an opportunity for someone like myself who hasn't got a lot of education or anything like that to upskill myself. And a lot of people in Collie are like that. A lot of people just went into trades, into mines and stuff, and no formal education. So there's an individual transition plan for each person, and then our transition officers will work through that and try and get you to where you want to be.
The Workforce Transition Program was actually built by our people, our union partners and our owners. It was a 5-phase plan, and that plan has at its very heart a people-first co-creation approach to change. Every individual has their own story. Our transition plan, therefore, has to be personalised and tailored to suit each individual.
The initial work was around tourism, and you can see some of the amazing outcomes of that. The dam wall and things and the trails have been a game changer for Collie. We're the biggest trail town in WA with the largest trail network. Now the focus very much is on using those blue collar workers and those skills that are, highly skilled people that we have in this community to attract the right industries that are a fit to the workers that we already have here.
The reality point for me, and I think for the community, was when then things started to happen, when the government through its agencies started to say, look, there's an opportunity here for a green steel mill, there's an opportunity here for international graphite, there's an opportunity here for magnium, to start developing through their pilot plants and assisted by government funding, I might add, and that's happening.
One of the young fellas in town stood up and said, we work with these. We need to bring industries to town because we're all people that work with our hands.
Collie has a hunger for new industry. It's not just a workforce, it's not just like human capital, it's a community which embraces long-term jobs, wants to work hard.
But it is a really unique set of skills that's very hard to get anywhere else because of that industrial process nature. So it is a really large-scale industrial project. And then ongoing, we'll probably look to have about 400 plus ongoing jobs, direct jobs.
But it's 217 full-time plant jobs.
Recently there's been issues around timing of the new industries coming to town. It needs to happen in a hurry.
Some of them are experimental plants, will it work? How long will it be till they're into production?
We want those other jobs up and running, or the industry in a position where they can start running by the time the first shutdown of the mine is.
I think if things started closing down now, while we had a gap before the new businesses started, then it would be a very different transition story than we're in at the moment.
It will be great to see a genuine new industrial centre there with real industrial jobs. And so there's a bit of race to run for that to become a reality. I think it's very plausible.
You need to trust that it is going to happen. I suppose we've got a history of hearing things are going to happen, things are going to get built, jobs are going to eventuate.
We know this is real life for people, and whatever comes in Collie or doesn't come is going to have a really material impact on many, many households.
And that's why we're training in steps at the moment, so we're not hit with one big bang for them to move to the new industries.
Change is hard, and change looks like different things for different people.
Years ago there were events or discussions in Perth that didn't involve people from Collie, so I think the state government is doing it really well. But I think we need more voices from people that usually don't get a voice, and that's often traditional owners, that's often people with lived experiences. They might, lower socioeconomic people, like I said before, lived experiences with mental health, lived experience with drug and alcohol abuse, not just the people that are in the workforce, not that people that have been successful. We need a whole community voice.
My name is Philip Ugle. I'm a traditional owner of the land in Collie. I was born on the Collie River.
It's quite focused, narrowly focused, we would argue, on impacted workers in the transition process. Does it include people in all their lived experiences, and in particular the worldviews of Wilman and Kenyang people who have cared for that country for 65,000 years? And does the way the transition rolls out, does that meet the needs of people in all their lived experiences, in particular folks who experience marginalisation and disadvantage already in our current system?
There has to be commitment from government. Has to be. It's integral, it's important, it's absolute. If there's no intent from government to move on a just transition process, in whatever form it would be, bearing in mind that it'll be different for every community, it just won't happen.
If I was going to give any advice for any community who was starting this process, setting up the Just Transition Working Group was absolutely fundamental to where we are today.
I think for other places around the country, around the world, trying to do the same sort of thing, I think the biggest message should be join your union.
I think one of the biggest things is to take a big breath and stand back and try and remove yourself from your personal situation, and then try and have an overview of which way you can go. What training you need, who to reach out to, where their funding might be that will assist you through that, and just have a really good idea of where you want to end up if the options are there.
If we don't empower our communities when we're trying to create wholesale change inside that community, then I think we're in the wrong game.